Hey guys, welcome back to AP. Sorry about last week. Things got a little crazy at work, so unfortunately I was unable to do any type of video that week, so my apologies for that. So during that time span, I had a friend of mine who I play D&D with every Saturdays, bought a whole bunch of the dragons. I can't remember which company makes these models. I think maybe it's WizKids, but I'm not really 100% sure. He bought a whole bunch of these from our local shop and he commissioned me to paint all of them, which I think there's about 8 to 10 of them at the current moment. The company hasn't released a couple more or a few more of their specific dragons, red and I think maybe the silver one. Not 100% sure on that one. If you know for sure, let me know in the comments down there. So, doing these commissions, painting a dragon is really quite simple. Blending and making the paint job look nice is pretty simple on bigger models like this. So, painting the dragon wasn't enough. I wanted to do something with the base, and I decided I was going to go with a nice swamp base for this black dragon. And for all you D&D nerds, you know that black dragons live in swamps. So I figured I'd do a short little video here on how I made this black dragon's little swamp base and how you can do it at home in only a couple of hours. Some really quick, easy steps. Not a whole lot of money into it in order to do it either. So let's head down to the table and I'll show you how I made this pretty little swamp base for a black dragon. Alright guys, so first things first is I went on to Google and I found myself a nice little image of a black dragon and what his swamp may look like. So, kind of use that as a reference point. This base is almost all washes. Olive green wash, and once that dried, I went and colored in some of the stones really lightly with some gray. Then once all of that was dry, I just added more washes. A black wash, brown wash, added some more green wash, eventually towards the end when I realized that the stones had gotten a little too not murky and gross looking, and a real quick dry brushing of an off-white just to pick up the high points and the cracks in the stones and everything like that. But one thing that I probably should have done, and it's a little too late now, was to try to go a little bit darker with these stones. I probably could have done that with some Agrax Earthshade, maybe a little bit of Nuln Oil instead of my own homemade washes. And once I had the paint job basically the way I wanted it, I needed to start adding some dead grass and some moss and sticks, things that you would find in a swamp. When it comes to dead grass, I use a house brush and just snip off pieces of it, super glue them to where I want them, and use some lichen as well that I've got from a hobby store. Just a couple of pieces just to give a little bit more color to the base, a little more green. This stuff was cool. It's Woodland Scenic's Briar Patch, I believe is what it's called. And at the very bottom there are some bigger sticks, and I really liked this one, so I decided I was gonna just super glue the crap out of it and put it onto this base so it wouldn't move. But I thought it added just a little bit more to the base instead of it just being lichen and some dead grass. I figured a dead branch was probably a good thing to add in there. Now when it came to actually putting on some texture to the base, I decided to go with tile grout that was mixed with some smaller stones and stuff like that, just because I knew that the water that I was going to be making with the epoxy was probably going to be kind of see-through, and I wanted to preemptively strike that situation in being able to actually see down through the water, so you didn't see just a black base sitting there or a non-texturized base whatsoever that was just painted brown. So I decided to go with this tile grout and just soaked up as much water as I could get onto it. It was also kind of a brown wash because I didn't like how light the tile grout actually dried. So I went back and forth with this brown wash and also a green wash just to try to give more color to the edges of the stones and also to that dirt, just in case I didn't quite get the mixture of epoxy and paint right. Now this epoxy stuff is from Bob Smith's Industries. I'd never heard of them before, and I really liked that they were in separate squeeze bottles that had measurements, and I figured that was going to make it a lot easier. These little silicone cups I got off of Amazon, and those things are a little lifesaver. So if you use a lot of epoxy or resin or something, definitely buy a set of these. The stuff, even after it's hardened, just pops right out. It's super simple. So got a 50-50 mix going with this stuff and added a little bit of that olive green into the mix just to add some color to that swamp water, because I mean, swamp water, it's gross, it's nasty, green, browns, all kinds of stuff like that. The only thing I didn't like about this particular epoxy is the cure time says 5 minutes. It was definitely not 5 minutes. This stuff cured so fast that I didn't have time to actually push it into the rocks and the bankments and stuff like that to make the water effect look actually real, like the water was up into the rocks and everything. By the time I made it around the base of this, it had already hardened, like completely hardened. So this particular company with the epoxy does actually make a 30-minute epoxy set also, and I think I'm gonna give that one a try next time, because like I said, this stuff just cured way too fast. I didn't have time to do anything with it, and ended up messing up the front of the base, of all places, the front of the base. I was quite upset about that, but all in all, I believe it turned out really well. Once I pulled the tape off and sanded down the sides, we used some polyurethane on the sides of the epoxy to clear it up a little bit, because it was pretty foggy. And my desk looked awful after all of this, so was super excited to get that cleaned up. I'm a little OCD. Alright guys, so hopefully this quick little tutorial on how I did this swamp base really helps you, get you motivated to do something like this to some of your miniatures, or maybe you got some commission work that you want to just step it up a notch or something like that. I personally really enjoy doing miniatures, and I'm probably going to do a little bit more of that stuff here at the channel, kind of making a sway towards more of a commission style work situation, maybe opening an Etsy page, switching over my Facebook page to more of a seller's page type stuff. But anyways, that's stuff for the future, and it'll be coming eventually at some point, and we'll start getting into that. But couldn't resist showing you guys a few pictures of the finished product on this paint job for this dragon. It really turned out really well. For the paints that I use, which is just cheap acrylic paints, I don't actually have any Vallejo or Army Paint or GW paints. I use some GW washes, but that's about it. So if you guys are looking to get me a Christmas gift, wink wink, could definitely use the nice set of paints. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Swing over to the Facebook page and I'll have more of the pictures up from this dragon, and we'll see you guys this time next week.